What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to take a look at the Iron Trans Lion King, or their version of a Masterpiece Scale Victory Leo. So I did an unboxing about a week and a half ago, and I've sort of been sitting on this figure and doing other reviews instead. There's a couple of reasons for that. So one, this is a pretty complex thing. It's a quintuple changer. So it has a robot mode, it has a vehicle mode, it has a lion mode, it has a combined mode with their version of Star Saber, and then it's got a second combined mode with their version of Star Saber. They call it the ultimate mode. It also has a combined mode with the MP24 Star Saber. I don't have that figure anymore, so I'm not going to be able to show you that. But because it's got so much going on with it, I just kind of kept putting it off. So this video will be the individual modes, robot, vehicle, and lion, and then we'll take a look at the combined mode with Star Saber, which we'll bring in later for a comparison. Now, I was excited for this. I've been waiting for this for 6 years. The original review for Star Saber was done in 2020, so long time coming, and I really liked that figure, so I was excited for this. The second reason I've been kind of sitting on this is it's got some issues, tolerance issues mainly with some of the joints. I'll point them out. I still, I bought this for myself, but I still like the figure overall, but there's definitely some issues overall in terms of the fit and finish and tolerances on this guy. Let's take a quick look around. First, there's some things you need to do out of box. So one issue is his feet. So his feet are somewhat loose on this, they don't lock in place. So you really need to get this configured so that the feet are sitting flat up against the bottom of the leg. That gives them some stability. You also want the heel and the toe aligned. And that ends up putting his foot at an angle. So then you need to bend the knee so that, the hips, so that it's angled back a little bit. So you can see I've got it angled back. He's basically crotch thrusting. And then I put this back forward on this knee joint right here. There's a double jointed knee. So he ends up, basically with the legs angled back like this. But that improves the stability a lot. And this is one of the issues I'll talk about later. There's some of the parts on here just press fit, and they tend to come off very easily. But that is a big improvement over the stability, especially right out of box. Those feet are definitely an issue. Second thing is we got to get his backpack installed. So if you come to the back here, he does have these parts on the back of his legs. That's actually part of his, he's pretty much a full-blown parts former. But if you grab the wings, looks like this. I think in the box it was extended out. So you're going to collapse this down. There's two little pegs. Get that installed like that. Then you're going to take these. These will peg in right here. So you have the guns on his backpack. Then you can take these, which are basically the combined mode shoulders, which we're not going to be using. So they're going to basically stay here the whole time. Those will get put right there and there. And really the only time you have to touch this is when you go to the other modes. We have to flip these guns the other way around. But for now, it's going to be like this. And then you want this folded back just so it's not visible from the front, right? You want this to look clean from the front. And then there's two slots here and two pegs here. It's going to fit onto there, and then these will just kind of rest butt up against the bottom. And this is something that's actually the fit is pretty good. Make sure you push that all the way around on, and then you're going to take this, that'll collapse down and sit on top, kind of covering up that backpack. And there you go. Now he is complete. He's got his backpack, his wings, his guns. And there's another problem, is that face loves to pop off. But let's get that fixed. So if you lift up on the head, you can just grab this. This will insert up into there. Maybe a little floor polish geeky, but there's the guns. I prefer to have them down like this. Also, I don't have to have my camera angled up to see that, so I think it'll be a little better for the review, but there he is. You know, I do think it looks good. It's a very nice looking version of Victory Leo. And overall, you know, nice chunky figure. All right, let's go over the articulation. I'll bring it a little bit closer so you can see some of the details. Guns obviously can go up and down. Wings can fold in and out on a hinge. The head is on a double hinge. It gets way back to there, way down to there, which is a good thing because this is a really big figure, so you want it to be able to look down, and rotates around. For the arms, you have a rotation here. Everything is friction. There's no ratchets on this. Personally, I think that was a mistake. They should have put ratchets on it. You get a butterfly joint built in to that shoulder. You have arms lifting up to there. This is a fully painted figure, by the way. This gold, black, white, all painted parts. He also has die cast in the elbows, knees, hips. The parts of the robot aren't necessarily die cast, but the internals has die cast in it. Rotation at the bicep. Double joint elbow, full bend. It does have a little gun down here. Rotation at the wrists. Individually articulated fingers, very similar to the original. It's a little spindly, but honestly, the tolerance is pretty good on these. Thumb is on a ball joint and 2 pins. Fingers can splay out, and they have 3 pins. Very articulated, very well done. Those work pretty well. Coming down to the waist, you have a waist rotation here. No ab crunch, just due to the way this is designed. The lion head is in here, so there's not really a way for you to get an ab crunch. Hip skirts, you have hip skirts on the front, on the ball joint. You have this, which is actually his Gatling gun. That can rotate out of the way. And then on the back, you've got hip skirts. So those will all move out of the way to allow you to lift the leg up to here on a drop-down hinge. So because of that, it gets pretty high up. Again, this is friction. I do think some of these things should have been ratchets. Out to the side on friction, but it does hold. Okay. You do have a gimmick built into this. I guess I'll do it now since it's articulation. But you can pull out the Gatling guns and display like that. That's pretty neat. I like that. Coming down to the legs, you have a rotation at the thigh. That tolerance is a little too tight, in my opinion. For the knees, like I mentioned, I have this one rotated back just a hair because I've got him leaned back for the feet problem. Double jointed knee on a die cast joint here and here. You can bend the top one. The top one's a little bit tighter, but you do get the full bend out of that. And when you bring it back down, I just make sure you have it angled at the right angle for the leg to stand on top of the foot. There's a knee pad here. These are loose. You know, they just press fit onto here. You could probably just fix it with some floor polish or kiki to get that to stay. But it's definitely loose. Like these could have been done a little better. You have a tilt here on the ankle guard. Feet tilt side to side, forward and backward. A little too loose on that, in my opinion. And a rotation on a peg. And like I mentioned, if you want to use those feet properly, you're going to need to have the leg resting on top of it. All right, now let's take a look at his accessories. And some of these accessories are intended for the Star Saber figure, but they can be used here. First, we have his tail, which becomes a sword / whip. It does have ball joints. Some of them are a little bit loose. It works, but again, tolerances could be improved. Has a round handle that will fit into a slot on either hand. and he holds that pretty well. So you have that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, and like I mentioned, it's a little bit on the loose side. The tolerances aren't great, unfortunately. We also get alternate face, which I actually prefer over the original. So you get this masked face. To get that off, you're just going to lift up to here. This face comes off super duper easy. So, you know, as you just articulate the head, sometimes it comes off. But lift that off. I put some floor polish just to make it a little tighter. Lift this back up and get this plugged in right there. Same spot. And I definitely think that looks a little cooler, but you do have the option. All right, we also get, yeah, this is kind of disappointing. It wasn't doing that before, but now it is. We also get this shield, obviously intended for Star Saber, but because it has the round peg, which is compatible with his hand, we can use it here. That looks pretty good. Later, when we get to vehicle mode, I'll show you can still use that shield for a stand. And this is just going to keep happening throughout the review, unfortunately. But there you go. That's pretty cool. We also get this giant blaster, which again, intended for the combined mode. But you can use it here if you want. So one, you can either take this out of the hand. Actually, we'll take out the shield. Take this out. This just pegs in right here. And you can put it in his hand. I mean, it's huge. Like, it doesn't even fit to the ground. Or, better option is you can come to the back here and you can stow it while it's not being used. So if you fold up the hand, you'll see there's a peg there. That'll peg into his backpack. And now he can carry around the gun. You know, that's pretty cool. I like that option. And here it is with the Iron Trans version of Star Saber. And even this, you know, he's bigger in robot mode than Star Saber. And I just feel like they should be the same size. So, you know, to me, this is just a little too big. I'm not sure why they made it so big, but it feels like it's, you know, off-sized. For size comparison, there is next to the Fans Hobby version of Super Jinrai or Power Master Prime, done in the Delta Magnus colors, but this is already a pretty big guy, and he towers over him. It does feel like it's a little too big, in my opinion. All right, now let's get this guy transformed into his jet mode. And I can almost guarantee some parts will fall off or just not work properly, but let's get it transformed. The first thing we're going to do is take off the backpack. So detach this from here. And I'm going to leave it off for the transformation just because it's going to make our lives easier. But we do have to do something here. So grab this gun and remove that. And I didn't mean to do that, but this will flip around this way. So you end up with the guns facing the other direction. And then get that tucked back in there. And this should just stay on here. It's these two pegs that are attaching it on here. All right, so set that aside. We are going to end up opening up the wings and attaching this, but we'll do that later. All right, let's get working on this guy. So first, we're going to take the arms, open up this panel, open up this panel. Make sure you have the hand folded all the way flat. If you don't, it's not going to work. You want it completely flat like that. We're going to flip, rotate the hand up, and then we'll flip this lion arm out. And yeah, see, it just barely fits. You got to kind of have it at the right angle, this door, so it'll slide by. And then peg that back in on this side and close up the bottom. This will rotate. You're going to use this peg eventually to attach it to the leg. All right, so leave that like that. Same on this side. All right. So leave those arms rotated and ready to attach, but we're not ready to attach yet. Next, we'll take care of the legs. And more than likely these will fall off, but we'll see how we do. Unpeg this from here. It's attached in 3 spots. This peg goes in here, this goes into the slot, and then this one on the bottom goes into here. So it's a really sturdy connection. Of course, it doesn't need to be that sturdy. The front ones definitely needed to be more sturdy. It's already falling off. I'm going to set them aside. It's going to keep irritating me. So let's come down to here, set these aside, open this up. You can fold these to the outside. And we're going to end up accordioning the leg all the way down into here. It shouldn't be like that. It should be in. So make sure it goes all the way in. Getting it back out is a little bit of a pain, by the way. Bring this up, tab that back in. And same on this. Bring that up, accordion that in. Make sure it makes its way all the way in, and then clip this back down. So here's how we're looking. Come to the feet. We'll fold this over, and then rotate the feet outside this way. Same on this. Rotate this over, and this will sit down on the top. Now, this is where it starts to get some parts forming. It's not a huge deal, but you need this adapter that holds these 2 leg pieces together. So get the legs together, grab your adapter, and that's going to fit right in between here. There we go. All right, so you want something like that. And the feet out to the side, like that. And next, we're going to install the nose cone of the jet. So grab these. We're going to open up this and this. You can already see, it kind of reminds me of like a 6-shot type of deal. But clip this together. All right, before we get this plugged in, we need to lift up on these feet, so sit like that. These will fold in, and then we're going to attach it using these 2 pegs onto these 2 slots. So line that up and get those tabbed in, and there's your nose cone. And we do need to put back the pieces we removed from here. And this can just sit over the top. And then same on this one. Get that plugged in. That'll sit over the top. Then we can take care of the back section. So for the arms, you'll see there's a peg right here. That's going to go into a slot right here. So lift up the lion arm there and then tab this in. It's a very tight fit. You got to use a lot of force to get it, and it might knock some other things loose, unfortunately. All right, there we go. That's pretty tight. You can rotate these back down. And let's just get this reattached. All right. So here's how we're looking. And of course we need some wings. All right, go ahead and attach your wings same way as before. These 2 slots are going into these 2 pegs. So line that up, give that a little push, straighten out your wings and your guns. And finishing touch here, we could take this bigger gun and use this peg and peg that in right here on the wings. All right, there's your jet mode. It is absolutely massive. The wingspan is huge. I'm just going to close it up so I can move it around. Here's the side. Here's the back. I'm not sure I love how this looks, to be honest. It's all right. This big gun is just too heavy. Tends to fall down on you. It's supposed to peg in right here, but obviously it fails. So there's really no way to secure that. I'm just going to take it off. You do get the cockpit. It's the idea of a jet. It's not really a jet. It's okay. You know, it works okay. And one thing I almost forgot is it does have landing gear. Not very useful, but if you pull down on this, you can see things are falling apart as I'm doing this. And come to here, you push in on this chest piece. You can pull out on these landing gear. I mean, it's just not going to work. It's not going to hold the weight. And things start to come apart. But push this in, fold out your wheels, and you can use a spudger to get it out the rest of the way. Then you can get it sit on those wheels. I guess it does roll. So it does work. It just, things start to come apart as you do it. For size comparison, there it is next to the MP10 Optimus Prime. You can see this is just absolutely massive. Not going to fit with anything in your collection. Just kind of its own thing. The wingspan doesn't help, but yeah, it's huge. All right, now let's get this guy transformed into lion mode. So go ahead, we'll remove these once again. And we're going to end up flipping the guns back to the other side. So they're facing this way. And fold the wing up and underneath. Same on the other one. Flip the gun around. Fold the wing up and under. And just leave it not attached for now because it's just going to get in your way. So set that aside. Come to here. We'll undo this cockpit, which comes off super easy. too easy, in my opinion. Open up these. And fold that in. Fold that in. And just set those down for now. We're going to unpeg these from here. Of course, the one time I go to take them out, they actually stay. And make sure these are folded down. You want the thigh inside there. But come to the feet. You're going to unplug this. Just pull out slowly on this. This came detached, but you want it actually attached. Same on this one. Pull this out. And you're going to fold that up. Sorry, fold it up that way. So you end up with this peg right here. Same with this one. Fold up the bottom part and set those aside. A lot of parts set aside. Then we're going to take this and put this back in because you need this to stay there. I wish it held on better, but it doesn't. All right, we can get this out of our way now because it's actually going to become the leg. So bring this out, unfold this. It has no resistance, unfortunately, so it's not going to stand up on it. And this is an issue I have. This side, the leg, that mushroom peg just comes right off. It clicks back in, but it doesn't stay. All right, for these legs, I like to put them so that you have this all the way down and resting on this, but you know, it's not going to stay. Wow, this is coming off really easy now. It's not good. All right, come to the front. We'll unpeg these arms. They already came out. They're pegged in here, but they already came out. Rotate this to the front. Rotate this way. For the paw, you're going to take this, flip this over, and that's one leg. Same on this side. Flip this around, rotate the paw, flip up this toe, and that's yeah, this is what I mean. It just doesn't stand. So I'm just going to leave those feet down for now. You got to take care of this section. So actually we can put away these wheels. We don't need those. Fold that in, fold that up. Then we got to get out the lion head. And I forgot to mention, you can rotate these horns if you want for a different position. But what we're going to do is come down to here, unpeg this from here. But open this up, we're going to flip this out. And you'll see, I want to show you how it was stored. The two little pieces of mane fit right in between here. That's how you know I have it in the right spot. All right, but for right now, we're going to lift this out, lift up on this slider, rotate the lion head to the outside, slide down the slider. Then we can take this whole section. This should collapse in on sliders. And then push the lion head back up to hide the robot mode head inside. You can see it just made its way right in there. The horns fit right around two pieces in there. So that's kind of smart, the way they did it. The rest of it is not very smart. So come down to here. This should peg in right here. This tab pegs into the hip skirt. It doesn't stay, unfortunately. It comes out, but that's what holds it together. God, I hate these rear legs. Then you have to slide this mane down, and I recommend having a spudger, but it is super duper tight. It was so tight I had to get a and that looked really easy, but that's because I added some shock oil for this. And shout out to Matt Partsformer who taught me about shock oil. It's saved me multiple times, both on Fans Toys and now this guy here. All right, once you pull that mane down, that allowed this mouth to open and close here. And if he can actually stand up without falling down, we can take care of this back section. And we lost his little butt clip. All right. Back here, we're going to take these. These are going to clip back in. So this peg and this are going into here and here. So get that tabbed in. And then same on this side, get both of those tabbed in. Make sure you're hitting both. All right, then you're going to take this and tab it into the top of that. Now in the instructions, they've got this thing. Let's see, yeah, they've got this hip skirt piece folded back, but it comes off so easy from this, and it's just flimsy and floppy. So I recommend you just leave it. The official transformation, they have it up like this, but with the hip skirts facing back. But it's just so floppy, just leave it the way it is, honestly. Put these down. Then you take this. This will peg into the top. So this slot is going on this tab. Not the best. Whatever. And then we'll take this, peg that into that tab. These are very loose, by the way, both of these. Then we'll grab the tail. So the tail will slide back here and clip in between these two little pegs. It's a little tricky to get in there, but slide this back. Make sure the legs are staying together. Oh, and everything's coming apart. This is why I hate this, but you can see I actually got it. I got this on there. You're going to rotate this so you get the hole facing backwards, and then the tail can sit like this. Yeah, and everything is just coming apart on me. Get that back in there. Okay. Hold together for me, at least so I can finish the transformation. goes up here, and this goes on this side. All right, and then you're going to take these feet and plug them in right here on top of the legs. They just become like, hip pieces there. And then finally come to the front. I wait till the very end because otherwise it's frustrating. And basically plug this back in to the top here. All right, there he is in line mode. And while I do think it looks very cool, incredibly frustrating with some of these issues, things popping out, legs not holding up, the joints just not, the tolerances are just way off on this. I'll show you some of the features. So you do have an opening mouth, nice horns here, and then teeth inside the mouth. It should open up a little bit more. So if you don't have that all the way down, you can't open the mouth all the way, but it opens up to there. You get rotation on the head, but everything's colliding. For the arms, it's the same arms as the robot mode, but rotation here out to the side, double jointed knee bend, and then tilt on the foot, and a forward movement on the toe. None of the legs really hold their position very well, so you kind of have to just pose it and forget it. Rotation at the thigh. This comes off due to the, poor tolerance. You have rotation here at the knee and at the ankle, but again, none of those joints work properly. He just kind of gives up on you. And then the tail has ball joints, but again, unfortunately, the main ball joint down here needs some kiki. You can kind of get it up using the other ones, but not the best. It does look good though. For size comparison, there it is next to the MP10 Optimus Prime. And yeah, way too big. Massive, lion mode here. But probably goes better with the figures from its own line. So final recommendations on the Iron Trans Lion King. And we're just talking about the individual modes, robot, jet, and lion. But I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 partial recommendation. Pains me to do it, but I've got to be honest with myself. I think it looks great in both robot, vehicle, and lion mode. Really cool accessories, really cool features like the Gatling guns, but ultimately the tolerances need a lot of work. Things like this, these pieces popping off, the face piece falling off, various joints being too loose or too tight. Transformation, there's parts that you just constantly are messing with, like in lion mode, the legs, it doesn't even stand up. It's just not enough strength. It needs like a bottle of floor polish to make it right. And that's sad to see. After all this time waiting, you would have thought they'd fix some of those tolerances. But ultimately, if you're getting this to go with the Iron Trans Victory or Star Saber, or combine it into Victory Saber, I think you'll probably be happy just because it does pair well with that guy, size-wise, but also just aesthetic-wise. And you are able to create the combination, right? But if you're getting this just as a standalone figure and you're putting it with your MPs, one, I think it's just too big, size-wise. Two, it's just kind of annoying. It's kind of frustrating to deal with it because things keep coming off. So that's why I give it a partial recommendation. With that being said, I am going to do the combined mode with the Iron Trans Star Saber. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.